Let's travel back in time. Hello and welcome to my messy studio. I thought I would take you guys around and show you before and after, because when it looks like this, it is definitely time to clean up this creative mess. A couple times a year it gets to this state and I have to do a deep clean. So for this part, the beginning of the video, I'm just showing you around my messy studio so you can see the reality of what it normally looks like in here when I've been creating and making a mess. But I like to call it a creative mess because, let's be real, when it gets messy like this, it's often a good sign because it means that I've been up here in my studio room, and it means that I've been creating. So this is the bonus room in our house, and one of the things I loved when we picked out this house is that it has these built-ins and a sink. I have had everything as my quote-unquote studio, from the dining room table to part of the basement in another house to a guest room. And when we bought this quote-unquote forever home, a studio space or a room where I could have a little more room to spread out was a must-have. And it goes without saying that I am truly grateful for this space. And as you look around and see different parts of this room, I hope you notice that this is kind of a place where I put all of my quirky little things, and the room is totally mine. And I have the couch when it's not covered in stuff there. My friends can come and hang out. That green chair was my grandparents'. But a lot of this furniture, like these lockers and a lot of the other vintage pieces, I got online for really cheap or in like vintage stores. And then some of them, one piece in particular was a hand-me-down from my mom. But a lot of antique furniture, for sure. And then the beginning of this year, I repainted the walls for the second time, and this room is a beast to paint with all the corners and cutting in and everything. So before the movers came, I painted it a gray, what I thought would look like a light gray. You can see it on the ceilings and on the walls there, and it did not turn out light gray. Like, that color was a light gray in my previous house, and it was definitely darker in this room. So in January of 2021, I repainted this entire room white. And I like that so much better. Another change I want to make to the room at some point is switching out the floors. I don't love that there's carpet in here. I'd rather have something that's a little more paint friendly. But that can come later. It's definitely not a priority. So this little nook here is where I like to do my morning pages. And on this white table is where I take a lot of my product photos. This table is an IKEA table, and I got that for $10 online. So this counter becomes kind of a catch-all and gets kind of messy. And then over on the left, you'll see some artwork from fellow artists, and above that is a cork map. I got that on Amazon, and I'll put the link below, and I put a colored pin in each city where I've sold art to. So it's a really fun visual, and I encourage other people to do it as well. You can check out my Instagram highlight called Map Your Art. if you want to hear even more information about that. So I have several of these carts, and I put a lot of my most used stuff in here. And they get messy, and today these are getting a makeover. This is the table that I create on the most. It's an IKEA piece of furniture that I used to have as a kitchen island in my last house. So I thought I would walk you guys through some of the random little knick-knacky things that I have over here. Of course, here's my little Bose speaker that I always click on and I listen to my music there. And I love to surround myself with different quotes and inspiring things. Like this is a little piece of inspiration that came with some art from my friend Mary. And these little pieces here on the left my mom made, and I bought those butterflies from an online vintage shop. And a lot of these things are from a certain, maybe either a trip or an outing or like little gifts from people. And a lot of them have little memories. The other day when I was at my parents' house, my mom had found this, and I think it's a picture of my grandfather carrying like a bunch of fish that he caught that day. I'm gonna go see if I can get it developed somewhere. I do a lot of shipping packaging at this table. So that's why you see things like business cards, tape, fragile stickers, twine, scissors. So this spot gets really messy really fast. Some of these are things that I had in my art room when I was an art teacher. I taught elementary art for 5 years and high school art for 2 years. And over that time, I collected a lot of different things, especially during the elementary years because I had 2 different classrooms at 2 different schools. And so I always had all these funny little things all over my desk and my shelves because I always thought it was really welcoming, like the kids had things to interact with and look at when they would come up and talk to me. So whenever I stopped teaching, I had all these funny little things, but I didn't want to get rid of all of them. And this little drawing here, an elementary student made for me, and my maiden name started with a W, but I just had to keep that out. I love how it's like a perfect little sign for my art studio. Alright, so we're getting in the groove here, and I'm starting to clean. I took just a couple videos for you during the process. So I used these little baskets that I know I probably got at the dollar store forever ago, and I started organizing the paints by color. And I started putting things away. In this locker, it's where I keep all my tripods and different things like phone holders, so those are getting put away in the right spot. These lockers had those words painted on them when I bought them. That's definitely part of the reason I love them so much. I recently got these journals. You can see me talk about them in an earlier video where I go through my supplies. So I'm just putting things away over here. I have a lot of sketchbooks and journals and things over here, and a lot of my papers. And then I have extras up on this shelf. On that top shelf is some of the ceramics work from my college years. So this piece here, while I was cleaning up, one of my former students messaged me to tell me that she saw this on Facebook Marketplace. And I immediately messaged and I ended up getting it, and I was so excited. So this amazing drying rack piece is now in the studio, and I'm putting lots of paintings and things on it, and I love it. Alright, here is the after. All cleaned up. And I always think about moving that work table that's in the center with the lights, especially since I do video. I've thought about moving it over to the window, but I love taking product photos over by the window on that white table. So that's still up in the air. Because I know being over by the window with the natural light would help me with my lighting in my videos, but I'm just not sure what to do yet. So this little cabinet here is holding all sorts of different mediums and things, and gessos. And then underneath that I have my paper cutter and one of my extra paint palettes and my cutting mat, some other things like that. These little paints here in the little jars, those were my grandfather's, and he used a little label maker to label them like that, and I just love them. He was always working on a project and doing things, so I keep those close. And these are my dried up paints from the year. I'm filling up Christmas ornaments with them. Thought it was a fun way to save the paint from my palette rather than throwing it away. And I thought I would just show you how I use some of my little vintage canisters and where I have things around the studio. That is actually a framed baby wipe that's dried up. I just loved how the paint had spread on that. It looks like a painting. I do really love having supplies out so I can see them. I feel like when I put things away in drawers and in containers that are closed, then I tend to maybe kind of forget about them and I don't use them as much, so I like having things accessible. Even papers, like sometimes I'll reorder things because I may not know I have them if they're not accessible. So now these carts are all organized. A lot of these Lucas paints I go to a lot, and then I put all the Payne's Gray over in one canister and some of my neutrals. And then now these are all in rainbow order. Those are mostly my heavy body paints. And then I put these pinks over in the side. That is my favorite mug. It says, "Shut up, Barbara." And Barbara is the name for my inner critic. So I got that mug as a reminder to always tell her to shut up. Let me know in the comments if you have named your inner critic or if I've inspired you to do so. Over here I have all my palette knives and brayers. I use those a lot, so they are right there up front and center. And then some of my less used supplies are down here in the middle. And then I've got some refill paints there on the side, pigment sticks, and then my fluid paints that I can easily get to in this little basket. and a bunch of stencils over here in this bucket. So this spot got cleaned up as well. Some of my favorite art books, some of my little inspiration cards. This little basket holds cords and chargers. And then this card that says finish, that's my word of the year for this year. And I painted that for myself. And then I have this picture of my dog Porter, who, whenever I filmed this, he was about 14 and a half years old. But now, as I'm doing this voiceover, he has actually just recently passed away. So send me lots of love, because he was the best dog, and now he's no longer my studio buddy. It's like hard to even say that without getting choked up. So on this side of what was a kitchen island, I have lots of other supplies that I don't use as often, but I can walk around and get them. So I walked you guys through this section earlier. I've just kind of cleaned it up, and I've got my scale and scissors and markers for when I pack up art and jewelry and things that I ship to people. And then over here I've got my scanner. I've started scanning things before I ship it out. And several paintings that are currently listed in my shop. And one that I'm probably going to keep for myself. Over on the window, I have all these little props that I sometimes use for photos. Some knitting that I haven't touched in a long, long time. And my favorite chair. That was my grandma's. It rocks and swivels. It is the best. This piece I love. I got when I lived in Pennsylvania, and I just have a little collection of some vintage things and a cool piece that my mom made. I love those drawers, and they have lots of random things in them. The metal table, the white metal table, was also my grandparents'. The map I love, and I got on Facebook Marketplace. And if you guys would like a more detailed video where I open up more drawers and go through more things, let me know. I know I love studio tours, so if you'd rather see even more details, I don't mind doing that at all. This piece here used to be at my mom's house, and she gifted me that, this large wooden piece. I need to go back. I think I got this drying rack. Yeah, it's a Lakeshore. They're kind of pricey in real life. Like if I were to buy that new from like a school catalog or from their catalog. But I think I got it for $15. So like I ran over there and picked that thing up. This is my palette from Southern Grit Studios. I will link her shop in the description. And I love doing like wood burning and making jewelry. That's what was in that tray. And then I just have a lot of my unfinished paintings on here for now. So I will eventually get to these and finish them. That's why my word of the year is finish, because I have lots of things that like to sit around unfinished. So these little panels I love using and I like to throw my extra paints on them. And then eventually they become finished paintings, but they start out with lots of layers of paint on them. And then that becomes backgrounds for future paintings. On my table right now, I'm currently about to film a gel plate video, so I have a lot of stencils and things out at the time of filming this. And then these two books, I'll link those. They're these really cool color swatch, color combo books, and they're really inspiring to look at for color inspiration. Got a sewing machine over here that my mom gave me. I still have yet to use it. I want to incorporate it in some of my mixed media work. I just need a little sewing lesson, to be honest. Some new brushes and some really well-loved brushes live over here. Alright, so I briefly mentioned this piece earlier. This used to be my mom's and she gifted it to me. And I put all my art books in it and then some vintage art supplies that I got online from White Pepper Vintage. She's on Instagram. I will link her page. And over in the corner there's a door there that goes into the attic, and I just have some large canvases leaning up against that because I don't go through that door very often. And then here's my other little corner of knickknacks and funny things. Art from other people, funny things, that mug I made in college. Ceramic pieces from other friends. That little weaving, green and white weaving piece I did in junior high. Again, just lots of stuff that I had in my art classroom, and now it all lives in here. This is the little pile of papers that I had under my white metal table. And again, these are just little pieces that as I work, I might put extra paint on there, or pieces that I start and I'm collaging and doing things. And I put them in these little plastic trays in this basket. So, or plastic baskets, not really trays, so that I could see them a little better and thumb through them like this. Anyways, I thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. Comment below if you want to chat. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye guys.